Sarah Colby at the University of Chicago told the Washington Post, for instance, quote, "This virus is here to stay. The question is, how do we live with it safely?" Is this virus here to stay regardless of whether a vaccine is developed and distributed?
Well, it's a very contagious virus. It is becoming, getting quite a foothold in many places around the world. We don't have any immunity to it. So those are sort of the ingredients of what makes something more likely to stay. I mean, you saw with SARS, for example, it did sort of fizzle out. I mean, there was 8,000 people ultimately infected around the world. 800 people died. Very high fatality rate, 10%, but not very contagious. This being contagious and, having a significant fatality rate makes it concerning. Ultimately, we may get to herd immunity, and the people won't be able to spread from more than one person anymore, and that'll make it fizzle out. But, even the 1918 flu in 2009, that was a descendant of the 1918 flu. So, some of these viruses do stick around.
All right, Sanjay, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Be sure to tune in tonight for a CNN Global Town Hall Coronavirus Facts and Fears hosted by Sanjay and, of course, Anderson Cooper. That's tonight at 8 p.m. only here on CNN. We are waiting for this news conference from law enforcement in Minnesota, expected to give an update onto the investigation into the killing of George Floyd. We're going to bring that to you live. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Breaking news in our politics lead. Moments ago, President Trump commented on the tragic killing of George Floyd in police custody in Minneapolis.
Have you spoken to the family of George Floyd yet?
No, I haven't, but I feel very, very badly. It's a very shocking sight. Bill and I were talking about it before. It's one of the reasons Bill's here right now, because, as you know, we're very much involved. And I've asked the Attorney General, FBI, and the Attorney General to take a very strong look and to see what went on, because that was a very, very bad thing that I saw. I saw it last night, and I didn't like it.
Do you think those police officers should be prosecuted?
I'm not going to make any comment right now. I can tell you, I think what I saw was not good.
As CNN's Caitlin Collins reports for us now, President Trump made those comments while signing an executive order just moments ago, one that purports to target social media companies for alleged bias.
It took the president more than 12 hours to acknowledge that the coronavirus death toll in the United States had surpassed 100,000. But this morning, he marked the sad milestone on Twitter and said to all the families and friends of those who have passed, "I want to extend my heartfelt sympathy and love." So far, Trump has held no moment of silence or commemoration for the Americans who have died. But the White House press secretary denies that he's been slow to publicly acknowledge the death toll.
The president has said one death is too many. He takes this very seriously.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the six-digit figure a scar on our nation.
There has to be a stop to this.
Today, Trump also shared a tweet claiming that masks aren't about public health, but social control, and that the image of Joe Biden wearing one endorses a culture of silence, slavery, and social death. So many different viewpoints, the president added. Dr. Anthony Fauci says masks may not be 100% effective, but they're valuable safeguards.
It's sort of respect for another person and have that other person respect you.
We're here today to defend free speech from...
Tonight, the president signed an executive order in hopes of limiting the legal protections that social media giants like Facebook and Twitter have when it comes to what's posted on their platforms. He's hoping to make it easier for federal regulators to argue the sites are suppressing free speech when imposing their own standards and rules, though it's unclear if his order will be enforceable, and it will almost certainly face legal challenges.
I believe it is time to, quote, get the facts about Twitter and other social media platforms targeting their bias against President Trump and conservatives.
Trump's broadside came after Twitter fact-checked his inaccurate post about mail-in voting. And today the president said it was ridiculous for Twitter to say his claims were wrong because there were examples all over the place. But he declined to cite them. Democrats say Twitter hasn't fact-checked the president enough.
Seems to be very selective.
Now, Jake, the president did acknowledge there in the Oval Office that this executive order is likely going to face legal challenges, as experts have said. And as he was criticizing Twitter for what he said was suppressing free speech, he said he would shut down the website if his attorneys could find a way.
Well, that is certainly not pro-free speech. Caitlin Collins, thanks so much. We are still standing by for an update from law enforcement on the investigation into the killing of George Floyd by a policeman. We're going to bring that to you live. Also had thousands of recovering coronavirus patients sent to New York nursing homes, potentially infecting the most vulnerable. A new CNN investigation. Stay with us. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has been trying to defend a state order from March that grieving families say led to coronavirus spreading in nursing homes and possibly leading to many deaths in those facilities. The order came when the pandemic in New York State was starting to get really bad and an influx of coronavirus patients flooded New York hospitals. The New York State directive said nursing homes could not turn away coronavirus patients. Governor Cuomo, on the defensive, says that order was in accordance with federal guidelines. But CNN senior investigative correspondent Drew Griffin, well, he checked it out.
It was March 25th. New York hospitals were overwhelmed, needed bed space, and the state of New York issued this directive forbidding nursing homes from denying admission solely based on a confirmed or suspected diagnosis of COVID-19. Nursing homes across the state took in thousands of recovering COVID patients, even if they were still potentially contagious. Daniel Arbini's father was in one of those homes.
The administration came and told me that they were being forced now by the state to accept COVID patients.
His family got him out within a week, but it was already too late for 89-year-old Norman Arbini. He died at home last month from complications of COVID-19. No way to tell how he got it.
It was the absolute worst decision anybody could make in a time of a pandemic.
It's impossible to know for sure how many of New York's 6,000 COVID-related nursing home deaths are linked to the state's order. But it is a growing political storm for Governor Andrew Cuomo, who insists he was just following federal guidelines.
New York followed the president's agency's guidance.
That is not quite true. Federal guidelines say nursing homes can accept COVID patients. New York's directive said no resident shall be denied admission. Still, Cuomo said nursing homes were not required to take COVID patients if they didn't feel they could handle them.
I think the rule that you can't discriminate against the COVID patient is right. That doesn't mean the nursing home has to accept a COVID positive patient.
But the heads of nursing homes say they viewed the March 25th directive as a mandate. One telling CNN, "We were told that we were not allowed to turn people down." Nursing homes added staff, tried to make other changes, but many couldn't stop the spread of COVID. After 6 weeks, Cuomo essentially reversed part of his directive, issuing an executive order saying hospitals
cannot discharge a patient to a nursing home unless the patient tests negative for COVID-19.
Critics claim the governor finally realized his policy was wrong.
Nursing homes were never an appropriate setting for COVID-19 recovery. And they were never an appropriate setting to be a relief valve for hospitals. And that's frankly, the hardest part for me to wrap my head around.
3 organizations representing nursing homes and long-term care facilities say they tried to warn the governor, spelling out the dangers of the directive days after it was issued, and in writing said that sending patients to nursing homes may have the unintended effect of making the problem this is trying to solve worse.
Did the state just not listen to you?
Sad to say, that is exactly correct. They did not listen to us.
Dr. Jeffrey Nichols is an executive at one of the organizations that tried to warn the governor and Department of Health.
Yes, unfortunately, being right is not a great satisfaction in all this.
Governor Cuomo will have none of it, insisting his policy was right, his reversal was correct, and the intent was to prevent discrimination against those with COVID-19.
In retrospect, do you think that was a bad decision, the March 25th memo? Do you think that contributed to the death toll in this state?
No, because you'd have to be saying the nursing homes were wrong in accepting COVID-positive patients.
That is not good enough for Daniel Arbini.
What does your family want?
An apology. Somebody to stand up and say, I was wrong. I'm sorry.
Jake, we actually may get an answer to all of this. The New York Department of Health is conducting its own review on admission and readmission data, using fact and science, they say, to track the spread of COVID-19 within these nursing homes. and to determine if Governor Cuomo's order played a role in that spread. Jake?
A lot of angry, grieving families in New York. Drew Griffin, thank you so much. Coming up next, we'll remember some of the 100,000 lives lost to coronavirus in the U.S., including a couple who was married for more than 60 years. Stay with us. We want to take a moment now to remember 3 lives lost to the novel coronavirus. Mary and George Schneider lived in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Mary was 91. George was 88. Their daughter says they were always together, going to the orchestra, to church. George was a big Phillies fan. When he would go to a game, he would always stay until the end. Mary and George were married 63 years. They died within 3 days of each other. Ernestine Johns Carter was 79 years old. Ernestine attended the first all-black school in Picayune, Mississippi. She was a majorette and marched with the school band. She loved dancing and music. Her daughter says Ernestine's goal in life was to keep her family legacy alive. May their memories be a blessing. Our deepest condolences to those families. This Sunday at noon Eastern, I'm going to host a CNN special called We Remember, a national memorial honoring the victims of COVID-19 with faith leaders and families sharing personal stories about their loved ones. I hope you will join us. Our coverage on CNN continues right now. Thanks for watching.